Hi there, friends. It's Simone, your favorite neighborhood nerd. It is Saturday morning. It is 5:30 a.m. I am walking to Rancho San Rafael here in Reno, where the hot air balloon races are taking place today. And I've actually meant to go there twice already, but I haven't. So, since I'm doing things, even if nobody is coming with me, and since I'm breaking out of my own restraints, I'm here all by myself. So, let's do this. I arrived exactly at the right time. I couldn't have timed it better. I actually should have probably arrived a little bit earlier because I just came maybe a minute or two before the dawn patrol. This is what you're seeing right here. Took off. They were signaling and I was able to film, and it was an amazing experience. What I liked even more was the mass takeoff that took place just after this. Well, no, that's actually not true. So, hot air balloons, which I didn't know, usually only fly during the day. And they rely very much on the winds that happen in different layers above. And so normally they fly during the day and not during the night. Only special hot air balloons are allowed to fly during the night, and that was those 6 that you were able to see right here. But for the mass takeoff and for the race to take place, we needed to wait for the sun to rise. And I swiped over. I was standing looking the other direction, so the sun rose behind me. And I just swiped over there occasionally to show you how far along we've been. The cool thing that happened was before the race, obviously it's a sporting event, we sing the national anthem, and so 2 hot air balloons actually took off, one carrying the American flag and the other one the Nevadan flag. And that was such a memorable experience. I mean, the whole thing was amazing, and I'm so glad I went. And after the singing of the anthem and those 2 hot air balloons took off, the rest of the field started to, well, I don't speak hot air balloon language. They started to fill their hot air balloons with air. I was standing right in front of this specific one, so I every time I captured another snippet of the big field where they departed from, I was able to get a glimpse of how far along they came. So they started blowing air in here, and then there was this long cord. That sounds weird. It's also not a ribbon. It's a really rope. That's what I was going to say, so that they don't start getting up right before they're allowed to. And this lady right here was going to walk that over there. It was fantastic. There were so many balloons taking off. They were at different stages of filling them with hot air, and there was so much information that was given to us. So this is 2025 is the 44th time that these hot air balloon races are taking place, and they're not only called races for fun. There is an actual race. I haven't done any research on how they go about doing the virtual part of the race, or they have targets that they need to meet. Maybe it's like if you go below this, or you have to go above that, something like that. I figure, I haven't Googled, I said before, but there is one physical target that they have to do. And I'm showing you a snippet a little bit later. There is a water tower. If you're looking at the screen right now, towards the right side, and there is a target there. They have to get over there. That's why all of the balloons, when I swipe over to show you which ones have already taken off, because it's unbelievable how many hot air balloons have already taken off. It was amazing. So they're over there. There is a target, and they have to drop a sandbag and try to get as close as possible to that target, which I find fascinating. Another fun fact that I was able to retain from this event was that usually, like over there, this is where you can quickly see it, and then they started taking off the fun balloons, and they said as well that it's so much harder to fly these different shapes. A balloon has a balloon shape for a reason, because it's the easiest to fly. So every differently shaped hot air balloon is really hard to steer and fly and keep in the air for a long time, which I thought was an interesting fact. The gray and blue balloon is actually the UNR balloon, the University of Reno, Nevada, Reno. There we go. Can you see how many balloons are in the air? Isn't that just fabulous? And to be able to stand right next to them, filling up with air. It's getting slimmer and slimmer, and this is basically panning out here. But I learned that only 10% of women are flying hot air balloons. But the participation rate in the Great Reno hot air balloon race is usually around 20%, and I thought that was amazing. I am back from the Great Reno balloon race of 2025, and I have to say that I'm usually an early riser. My alarm rang at 4:30 this morning, but I am struggling. I'm so tired, or exhausted, maybe is the better word. There are some things. Let's use the fingers and orchestrate this. It's not going to get any better than this here. I hope I was able to share some of the footage that I took at the balloon race. It is so great. I was there. I came just in time for dawn patrol, and that was nice. But I loved the start of the race when all of those hot air balloons were taking off. That was such an immersive experience, and I love that I went there. Now, I might want to journal about this later, so I'm not sure if I am going to include it in this video, depending on how long this gets. My plan for today is to share 2 pen updates with you. And I have this up here. I wanted to update it, but I'm not going to do it because I think I already did, and I am just not feeling like it. And then let's see where we're getting with this. I want to talk about 10 minutes of joy, and the other thing that basically developed out of my stationary habits and are now translating into my real life. And I just wanted to share this experience with you, which is what I want to journal about, because yes, I'm vague. because I feel like it's so impactful, and it's something that I haven't really thought about prior to something my brother actually said to me this summer. And then, what is this? Are these birds? That's so weird. Let me investigate. Give me a sec. I am not able to share it with you. Maybe when I'm done with filming, I'm going to check it out. It's like this teeny tiny rocky area right in front of my window. And it looks like there's birds or cats sitting on there, but upon closer inspection from this angle, it might just be, negative space that isn't lit. It doesn't matter. So the first thing that I want to talk about is this pen. So I have the third nib on here. This is my Hogtown Swansea in XL. And you can see what is happening. There is ink all over. Now this ink is diamine writer's blood, and it is supposed to be a wet ink. But I don't think this is what's supposed to happen. It completely spills into the cap, and this happened not just with the monarch nib that is on here right now. I had an extra fine nib on there. It completely emptied the converter into the cap. I changed the nib and the converter because I thought maybe there was some, residue of pen flush or something that would, or air, like maybe there is a small crack in the converter, or maybe the housing unit of the nib isn't good. Then I obviously changed the nib and the converter to a fine nib. I did not like that writing experience at all. It was also extremely wet. And now I switched to this. I still don't like the ink in this nib. But look, it's like, why is this happening? So I'm not sure what is wrong with this. Maybe it is the wet ink. Doesn't make sense to me at all. Because that renders this ink basically unusable. This is the third nib that I have it in. It was an extra fine and a fine nib, and it just, what the hecky? So I am actually going to clean this out when we're done filming, because I have decided that I just don't want to be surprised. And look, this here is writer's blood from the first explosion. And I just have no idea why this is happening and if I'm doing something wrong. I feel like most likely the error is the user. And so, I don't know. Now, based on this, this is the second ink that is so extremely wet. Maybe, possibly. If this is the reason why this is spilling ink into the cap all the time, because the ink is wet, then this is the second one. So writer's blood, and the other one that I have experienced this with is Lamy Petrol. I actually made a list in my journal, right somewhere here. Nope. In my tracker for September, right here. It's hard to read because this wasn't dry and I closed the notebook. Super wet inks I should try in dry pens. Lamy Petrol, Diamine Writer's Blood, that is a list that I'm just going to add to as I go, because I think sometimes I am very, very single-minded, and I'm like, okay, I can't use this ink. Same with maybe a pen. I'm like, oh my gosh, this pen is so dry. But if I'm going to make a list, maybe I need to make a list of pens that I have experienced dry writing, that I had a dry writing experience in, so that I can pair those with these inks. At the moment, I feel like these might be too wet. But what if, for instance, one of the pens that comes to mind immediately is my Waterman Coran in F. That feels extremely dry often. And so I should try one of these inks in that pen and see if that pairing will make the ink less wet and the pen more wet or less dry. And maybe I will have a combination that is really good in that pen. So I'm not going to dismiss these inks just yet. I think what I'm going to do, moving along in my list making and my experimenting, is I should probably make the same list for dry inks so that I can also pair drier inks with nibs where my writing experience is wet. So maybe the Monarch nib just isn't good with extremely wet inks. And so the pairing of these two together cause this. I will figure that out when I put a drier ink into this nib and see how that performs, right? So that's basically what I'm thinking about, but I wanted to share this with you. And I also wanted to note that in here, so on August 24th, I switched from the extra fine nib to the fine nib, and you can see the difference in saturation of the color here. I hope it's light enough. Maybe hold please. Maybe this makes it a little better. And I really like the way Diamine's Writer's Blood looks in this extra fine nib. What I don't like is the way it looks in the fine nib. I feel like then I switched it on August 31st. I switched it to the Monarch fine nib. I like this experience a little bit more than this experience, but it's still not as amazing as this one. And then I did my documentation. I told you, maybe if you remember, in my currently inked video or the video before, that I was going to pull a Chris Sains and actually write down my feelings about combinations. I think she does more of an exploration of just writing down what happens or what is on her mind. I'm trying to, not all the time, but I'm trying to be very pen and ink and experience specific in these. And I had a hard time starting, so I decided to just fill half the page because that's probably most likely enough. And I'm not limiting myself to half a page. But the thought of filling a full page with one pen was daunting. So I decided, you know what, let's just do half. So that's what happened here. So this is how that experience went. However, I like the way the ink looks. I like the way this looks. I'm really struggling with words today. I guess that's because I got up at 4:30. And however, I did not enjoy the hard, stiff Jowo nib. Because the ink spilled twice with this nib, I decided, you know what? Let me change the converter. Let me change the nib. Let's go to the fine. This is what the fine looked like. And there is more sheen. It's hard to see, but it's extremely saturated. did not enjoy this at all. The stiffness wasn't the same. It was not as stiff, but I still did not enjoy it. So I thought, okay, let's see if I like the writing experience with the monarch fine nib better, because I'm trying to figure out what it is about specifically the steel Jowo nibs that makes me not like them. I feel like I'm letting people down not liking them. It's my preference and I can love and like what I want to, but most maker pens, I would say maybe 70% of the maker pens have Jowo nibs. All your SDs, your Montegrappa Elmos, the Leonardo pens, they all have Jowo nibs. So I'm kind of limiting myself, which is okay to me, but I'm also limiting the appeal of the stuff that I'm talking about, because we're getting either into gold nib territory or, it's harder to appeal to a broad audience if you don't like what 70-80% of the nibs are made of or are. So that's why I swapped this. Wow, I'm blah, blah, blah. I swapped to the fine monarch nib because I was like, okay, I had this experience and I loved it. This section is much narrower. Not a lot, but quite a bit. I don't know. I should measure. Oh, again, another. So if you look at this section is much wider than this section. And I used to proclaim that I love wide sections and that I enjoy the writing experience with them more. And this is definitely on the lower end of what I prefer. And this is right at the size that I like. But I had a really hard time writing with this pen. It just did not feel good. So after this, I was like, okay, let me swap out a different nib, the fine monarch nib, to see if that experience, the feeling that I have, the tense, I'm like, tensing up on this pen when I hold it. And I start to notice how it translates over into my upper arm and into my shoulder, and how my whole neck gets stiff. Not with a section like this, but I just, that how it starts to feel. And that's when my alarm bells start ringing. So I was like, okay, so is this too wide? Am I mistaken? Because this was great. I did not even think about the thin section because I enjoyed my writing experience with this nib so much. All this to say, I swapped it to the monarch nib and the experience was better. I still don't like how saturated the ink is when it is in a wetter nib, but the writing experience was better. Now I open this and it is, inky again. Sucks big time. So that's the experience, and I don't know how to condense this into 2 lines. Oh, how about I have an idea. So I'm going to also write with the reverse side 2 things were off. Number 1, ink spills with different nibs and converters. No clue why. And second, super stiff Yovo nibs. Not a great writing experience. Trying to explore. So, what am I going to do with my rating system? I thought about giving it grades, but I don't even know what type of grades, points. I thought about ranking them, so this would definitely be my least favorite. But actually, I think I should give this an F, even though if we are going with Chris Sains, she would probably put this as an incomplete, or she never gives really bad grades. However, this actually failed me multiple times, and I don't know why. So I'm going to actually do that. And I am going to also rank them. I just didn't want to only rank them, because I think I could have A+ experiences. Let's go with those letter grades here. For 9 pens. And then maybe the 9th is because I like the color of one of the other ones more than that specific one. If I rank them, would then be on 9th place with a pen like this that did not perform well, that had issues that I couldn't figure out what happened exactly. And so I think it's not the most telling if you look at it from an outside perspective, and especially if you compare different months with each other. Not saying that I will ever be doing that, but you never know how deep I'm going to fall when next time. Moving on in the upcoming years. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is the 9th. All right. This can go into my jar of to clean stuff. And then, so I do have quite a bit of, I'm either I like it or I don't. It's like it's either great or it's not good at all. I don't feel like I have middle experiences, mediocre experiences. Maybe that's because that's not what I'm going for. It's either all or nothing. Why should I settle with a mediocre experience when I know that I can have great experiences? Maybe that's what is happening. But this one was another amazing, great experience. So maybe I do have, in the ranking, for instance, this would rank higher than the Walltown Watts, because it just, the balance of this pen in my hand is so amazing. Every time I use this, I feel like it feels so good in my hand. So can I turn this over? This is the experience that I had, and I bought, because I have such an amazing, great experience with this specific pen, I decided when I was looking and craving another Pelikan M800, I was led to believe that I needed this pen by Brittany from Carrots and Olives. There's some YouTubers that make me that somehow just share pens that I want. And I definitely, if I'm in a mood where I can't keep my money together, I cannot watch Brittany's videos, because every time she shares stuff, it's stuff that I want, and it's stuff that, and also when my barrier of entry is very low, meaning that I don't have any self-restraint in that moment. And then I end up with pens like this. Well, actually, I sold stuff in order to be able to purchase this. So I did definitely not purchase right after watching, but it just didn't leave my mind when I saw it on her channel, and when it was available on Endless for a great discount, I checked what pens I could let go and got this one. And I chose a fine nib because I have such a great experience with this. But ever since I got this, it was always like, so either the nib is super different, or I'm just thinking that the writing experience is off. And so I thought that meant to do this for quite a while is to ink both pens with the same ink, so that I can actually compare right then and there if I'm just thinking that I have different experiences, or if I'm actually having different experiences. And maybe because the ink is the same and it should behave the same way in this pen, maybe I can even pinpoint to what is different, if that makes sense. Like, I'm taking out the factor of the ink, making a difference on the writing experience, and this way I can more easily pinpoint what difference I'm experiencing in the writing experience. So let's do that. Let's start. I'm going to do that right here for now, because this is, let's do this side because it's easier to do. See, there we go. This is where we start. I have the feeling that this is not, so let's see this. Yep, there is definitely a difference. I mean, you can even see it. I can see it. Maybe it's, this is much drier in writing, and if I'm looking at these two, then what I notice is that the tines are much tighter, or it feels like it. It's like they're almost like they're under pressure, kind of. Oh, also, am I just like, maybe I'm not looking at this the right way, but I feel like the feed is different as well. Am I just tripping here? Let me put these sideways. I feel like, okay, I hope this is, I have the weird feeling that this feed is not as deep. So an easy fix for this could be to just press down. There's a really great video by Doug Rathburn of Inquiring Minds. I think this is how you say his name. And he says 8 steps in order to make your pen wetter, I think is what it's called. If I can find it, no, it's still the same. Yeah. The question is, if I do this right now, will it heal itself for this writing experience? And then when I come back tomorrow, is it going to be the same way? Oh man, it feels really weird and wrong to do this, but also, yeah, I still, it looks like these are, maybe they're misaligned. Like they're too close together. What happens now? So if I were to have to choose between these two pens, same ink, same nib, I would always go for this one. Because it feels like it's not... Also, I just need to write with this more, and then possibly this is going to be the same. So what it just proved to me that is, number one, I am not tripping. This is different. Number two, I can make a little bit of a difference by using, I think he has a lot more tricks. If I watch that video closely and follow along with his steps, it would probably be better than just doing something here. Make this wetter a little bit, but it would also mean that I'm not wrong to take this to a nibmeister and ask them to make it right like this. Because they're the same pen, they're writing a little different. And so, yes, I could swap the nib from here to here when I'm using them. But also, if I have two really expensive pens, I really expect them to be able to write. Now, the reason why I'm actually even thinking about this in general and making all of my nibs work perfect for me is that I have noticed over the last several inking rotations that I love a variety of nib experiences. You can see that here I have a fine 21 karat Pro Gear nib, which currently the Pro Gear nibs are my favorite. So it's not surprising that I have 3 in different nib widths, but 3 of the same maker nibs here. But I have an extra fine Jowo nib, I have a medium steel Schmidt nib, I have a medium Pro Gear nib, I have a fine Pelican nib, I have a medium Pilot nib, I have an extra fine 14 karat Lamy nib, and I have another Pro Gear nib here, and then an FA nib from Pilot that I removed from one of their pens and put into a flexible nib factory housing. But what I'm noticing is that when I'm inking up a set of pens, what I'm looking is for variety, either in nib widths or in different types of nibs, because that is what brings me most joy, to write, to have these different experiences. I don't want to have different inks in the same pen. So the likelihood that I'm inking up these 2 pens at the same time is very minimal. And I'm currently, so I don't want to acquire a new pen. I don't need to raise any funds. I can keep both of these in my collection if I want to. But if I were to cull down my collection even more, then that's what I would be looking at. What nibs do I have multiples of? How likely is it that I'm going to use both at the same time? Because then what is the point of you keeping them, right? Because I could diversify my nib experience even more. Maybe I would be able to, I've been dreaming about a Visconti Homo sapiens dark age for a while. If I sold this pen, maybe that is one that I could add to my collections to get even bigger experiences with my nibs. So that's why I wanted to check, am I tripping? Is this the same experience? Is it not? It's not right now. I have been tempted to sell this pen multiple times, but then I'm also, and also there is some scratches right here. So maybe this is not even a good idea to sell this. But I also really just like how this pen looks. It just looks so classy compared to this. And it's not forbidden, that's a good segue to the next topic. So that's this. I'm gonna think about this. My current thought process is that I deserve to keep this pen for now. I want to maybe work on this some more. Maybe I do want to actually spend the money to have a nibmeister look at it and take care of it for me so that I can have the same writing experiences in both pens. Next. What was next? Yes. So I can't really talk much about or show a lot of the things that I want to talk about because they're like deep thought things. But I want to share them with you anyways because it's just so impactful for my own life. And maybe that is just super normal and you do this anyway and it's not a thing. But for me, it is a thing. Let me retrace my steps. I am notorious for setting rules, boundaries for myself in the creative realm. And if you've been with me for a very long time, you know that this is a topic that I address so often. It's like, why can I only ink 5 pens? Why does it have to be a rainbow? Who says that I need to journal this way? Who says that I need to do something a specific way? And the answer most likely is it's me. I thrive in arbitrary spaces, let's call them arbitrary spaces, where I'm setting limits for myself and giving myself small areas where I have freedom to thrive. But at the same time, I want to recognize when those limits that I set for myself are actually limits and are limiting my creativity. That's something that I have been trying to navigate for a long time now. As I said, if you've been with me, you've seen how far from where I came and where I am now. I think that I have made a lot of progress. Yes, I am still giving myself rules because I recognize that they help me. Not everyone, they help me. But I think where I have grown a lot is recognizing ahead of time when these limits start to limit me, and to be addressing them head on, to be able to navigate those limits and not impact me in a negative way, but to see where I can stretch those boundaries that I've given myself. I feel like I've talked about this super eloquently right now. And over time, and especially since the summer, when I saw my family back home in Germany, that it just fell off my eyes. I realized I have been doing this not just in my creative life. I have been limiting myself in so many different ways. Let me give you an example. Now, we have different starting points. I have a big family. I have 4 younger siblings. Most of them have kids that are between the age of, my youngest niece is turning 2, and the oldest nephew just turned 11. So, of course, their family situations are different. My kids are older. I can now decide what I want to do without actually taking any care of, is someone looking after them? Can I leave them? Can I do this without risking something? I do still have a partner, but obviously deciding what I want to do and doing what I want to do is much easier for me than for my siblings. But there was something where we spent a long weekend together. We did a lot of stuff together, and we were deciding who is doing what and what, blah, blah, blah. And I was looking to my partner, I was looking to my kids, and was wondering what they were going to do. And in that moment, my brother said, "It's not what they want you to do, it's what you want to do." And I was like, heck yeah, you're so right. Why am I always waiting for someone to tell me how to be a good daughter, how to be a good wife, how to be a good mom, and waiting for them to tell me how I can fulfill that role perfectly, and letting my own wants fall under the table. And that was just so eye-opening that I did things that summer, this specific summer that just passed by, that I probably wouldn't have allowed myself to do if my brother hadn't said this. And now I'm like, yeah, man, why? So here's my nudge to you. Reflect on your boundaries that you're setting yourself, not just in your creative space, but also outside of your creative space. Where are you limiting yourself? Because why? Like, who made that rule? Why are you not doing the thing that you think you want to do? So I was the only adult girl. There was my sister's daughter, there we go, who is 8, also went kartfahren. How do you say that in English? We went and drove go-karts at the Sachsenring, which is an actual, it was super fun. There were all boys. No, that's not actually true. My daughter went there too. Well, okay, I'm lying to myself. But I was really thinking, okay, all of my sisters are staying back home with their kids, enabling their partners to go. And I'm not judging them because maybe that is what they decided is best for their family, but sometimes that is also the easiest way. So we all went, I drove kart, and I had a lot of fun. I put aside this is the expectation and just lived in the moment. And that's exactly what I did. We also went to, it's an adventure climbing park, basically, where there is these obstacle courses in the trees. If you've been with me for a long time, you know that I'm afraid of heights. Yeah, and instead of letting that fear limit me, I decided, and I would never in a million years would I have thought that this would actually work. But I felt so empowered after that experience. Like, I'm almost tearing up telling you about this, because I decided, you know what? Fuck you, fear of heights. I want to have fun. I love doing this. I want to have fun doing this. And so I did it. I went on more of these parkours, is what I'm going to call them, than I have ever done before. I did not bat an eyelash if it was higher than I would normally do. I just did it, and I had so much fun. Like, I never thought you could do this. Can I just turn off my fear of heights? Like, how did this even... Okay, so I'm kind of rambling, but there were two instances this week, and that's why I want to talk about this right now, where I did exactly this, and I am going to do more like this in the future, because really nobody else is the maker of my happiness than me. And I feel like I've been waiting for other people to say, yes, I'm going to do this with you, or picking up on my excitement and saying, oh, come on, let's do this. When I'm always the one who is cheering for everybody else, but I am staying home with the dog. Like, why the fuck am I doing that? It's not just mine. And obviously, do you understand where I'm coming from? Like, here, I have been meaning to go to the lake after work since last summer. I did it this week for the very first time. This week means the first week of September. Why did it take me so long? Because I thought about it more. Because I have been waiting for someone else in my family to say, oh yeah, mom, oh yeah, partner, this is a fabulous idea, let's do this. Nobody ever did. And just because nobody ever thought that this was a great idea doesn't mean that it isn't a great idea for me. And so why should I wait for someone else to say, yes, let's do it? Why can't I just be my own cheerleader and say, yes, you can do this? And so I did this. I decided to go. I packed my bag. I packed my dog. And I was a little hesitant, I have to admit, because I also wanted to go to a closer lake. So that would be the very first time. It's like, oh my God, what if I, blah, blah. You know, all the thoughts that you have when you're almost out the door, and then you think like, oh no, I need to stay home because there's a reason why I need to stay home. I asked my son, he said, nah, you can go, it's fine, I'll stay home. I asked my partner, and either he recognized that I was almost up to cancel, or he just genuinely wanted to come, but he decided he would go with me. But still, I put on my bathing suit, I went into the water, I took Max, I learned that I can actually do this myself. I don't need anybody coming with me to be able to do this and pull it off. And it felt so good. And I want to do it again next week. Perfect. Great Reno balloon race. We've lived here for 2 years. 2 years. I drive to work. I see the hot air balloons in the sky. I'm like, I wonder what this experience feels like. Tell my family about it. They're like, ha, ha, ha. And I'm like, okay, well, nobody wants to go, so I'm not going. Why? I can have fun by myself. So today I got up at 4:30, went to the Great Reno Balloon Race, and had the best time. And yes, I totally acknowledge that it would probably be nicer if I had somebody to share this experience with. But also, I did not miss out on this experience. And I had that experience and I had a great time. And I want you to think about how you're limiting yourself and how you can be your best own advocate and do things without anybody cheering you on. And also, share it with me. I'll be your faraway partner to experience this because, man, you deserve to make your own happiness. Oh my gosh. I don't know if this went deep, but it feels very schmaltzy. And I'm going to get off my soapbox for a second before I start my next soapbox. I need some water. So I am definitely going to cut out some letters now because I want to journal about this. And I want an R. Do I have a G? Yes. Cool. So I just need to figure out where my supplies are. One more thing that I have started to do maybe before the summer sometime. Oh yes, actually this started in February and even before that. But another backstory, so I'm able to tell you the full story. This now is talking about 10 minutes of joy. And actually what it does for me when I do those is 10 minutes of joy before work. I often notice that I'm going to bed and I feel like I did not do anything. And by that, I don't mean I didn't do anything, period. What I mean is I didn't do anything creative, anything for me that would satisfy me and make me feel good about myself. I feel like that's a theme, you know? Maybe I'm self-sabotaging more, or I'm realizing that I have been self-sabotaging myself more than I ever thought I would. And maybe you're the same. Maybe I'm the only one, and that's perfectly good because then I know that nobody else does these things to self-sabotage. But so I'm going to bed with this feeling like I didn't do anything for myself today. And then when I did these 30 inks in 30 days in October, or 28 inks in 28 days in February of this year, what happened was that I really wanted to be able to accomplish that daily task of swatching an ink and inking a pen. And the best way that would happen was if I made time in my morning routine so that I could do that before I left for work. So I wouldn't have to, so the day could go completely south and I would still have had accomplished that one inking thing that was important to me. Yes, that might sound weird to some because it like, really, that's so important and nothing else is important. You're so weird. Yes, I totally am. But what happened after that February experience of those 28 inked pens was that all month long, I felt really good about myself. I felt like I had done something, I had achieved something. And that's how this 10 minutes of joy was born, because I knew I didn't want to continue with the inking a pen, but I wanted to keep that feeling of having done something for myself before the day actually really started. And so I already had made space for about 10 minutes to ink those pens. And so I decided, you know what? I could just not go back to the morning routine how it was before. And now I'm losing my train of thought. And just leave that 10 minutes and do something that brings me joy. Mostly it will be maybe adding a journal entry from the day before, doing something creative for myself. And that's how this idea was born. And I've been trying to do it, and I have to tell you two things. First one is Monday through Friday before I go to work, it's going fabulously well. And I notice a really big shift in how I feel about myself, about the rest of the day, when I'm taking the time and making sure that I'm saving those 10 minutes to do something creative. And in the recent weeks and just before I left for vacation, I started to look at this a little bit broader and not just doing something creative, but doing something that brings me joy or doing something that helps me in any specific kind of way. So what I don't want to do is sit there and scroll social media. What I want to do is, maybe I haven't had time to check my planner, but my brain is overspilling. So maybe I'll take those 10 minutes and just write those things all down. Or maybe in an ideal world, I would probably meal prep for my work snacks on Sunday before the Monday. And often I do, but then there's this one tiny thing that I forgot, or that one thing that I just couldn't bring myself to do. And instead of not taking any snacks to work, I take those 10 minutes on Mondays to finish prepping my snacks for the week. That is joy that spills over for the whole week even. Just by saying, you know what, I have those 10 minutes. I can dedicate those 10 minutes to something that brings me joy. I have done that. I have decided to keep reading the book that I'm reading. As I said, I planned. I often work on a small little journal entry. Those are very fun for sure. But there is no limit to what brings me joy. The other day I addressed postcards because that is something that that's the reason why I don't send postcards, because there's no address on there, there's no stamp on there. I'm making a list of people I want to send postcards to. I put stamps on, I write the address, and then when I have 5 minutes, maybe next week I have a 10-minute of joy where I'm like, you know what, let's write a postcard. Then I can do that, I can take it to work, and it's gone. It's only 10 minutes, but it just it's like such a simple change in my routine in the morning, and it has such a huge effect on the way that I live the rest of my day. Obviously, you don't have to do 10 minutes of joy at all. You don't have to do 10 minutes of joy before work. But I wanted to share this insight with you just so that you can maybe figure out a time of day when you're like, ugh, I sat here for 15 minutes and scrolled, but instead I could have. And maybe intentionally try to change that to set yourself up for success and give yourself permission to do something creative, something fun, something else, and figure out what that could be, and then do it. Do it for 5 days and see how you feel after. I promise you, it's going to change your life for sure. Like, totally. So, I have no idea how long I've been yapping. And I don't know what else to put here because for some reason I was able to squeeze all the important things up here. But I will find something. So, yeah. I really appreciate you so much. I thank you so much for listening to me yap. I love yapping about these things. When you're moving into the next season, fall is coming. Think about what I said. Think about all the things you've not allowed yourself to do for one reason or another. You can totally dress up, even if none of your family is dressing up for Halloween. Just to name one of the things, you can be super childish. If you don't have a problem, nobody else in your closer circle should have. Maybe I'm gonna do it this way. Okay, great. How do we write an R? Oh, well, like this. Yeah. Give yourself permission to be you all the way. Not just serve other people, but also serve yourself. Thank you so much for watching and listening to me ramble on. I know this wasn't filled with too much visual content, but if I were Allison from Little Coco Studio, I would have this whole spread prepared with all of the thoughts that I had. But I'm not. But I wish I were sometimes because I just admire that so much, Allison. If you're watching this, know that I want to be more like you in that realm. Yeah, I hope you are enjoying your weekend. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you next time. Until then, bye.